What's up everyone, it's ENDYMION. I have some news surrounding Dragon Ball and the IP's future that not nearly enough people are talking about, nor do they even know what's happening behind the scenes, so I need to get more eyes on this story. Beyond this, we'll also talk about how Japan is apparently gearing up to nuke Ubisoft from orbit over Assassin's Creed Shadows and that whole Yasuke situation. But first, Dragon Ball, because this is crazy. As we all know, unfortunately, Akira Toriyama passed away, who created Dragon Ball and the amazing world that we all know and love. Not to mention his work spans so much it's incredible. I mean, besides the Sandland series, Toriyama had his influences on peak series like Dragon Quest for years with his art style. Not to mention being involved with what is arguably one of the greatest games of all time in the form of Chrono Trigger. God, I love that game so much. The world lost a visionary creator when Akira Toriyama passed, and that cannot be understated or denied whatsoever. He was in all ways the GOAT, and the world is better for his work and his passion. Since his passing, however, there has been a legal battle behind the scenes that has been going on over who exactly owns the rights to Dragon Ball and its many spin-off games and so on. This leads me to an article from a Japanese magazine called Weekly Toyo Kazai. And this article was translated by a Twitter user named Supa Chronicles. I'll put their Twitter on screen here if you'd like to follow them, since they cover many things Dragon Ball related and more. Okay, so what the hell is happening exactly behind the scenes? To set things up, there's three key players in this whole nasty situation. Obviously you have Akira Toriyama, and since he passed away, his family is now the stewards of Dragon Ball in a sense. Secondly is Shueisha, which is the largest Japanese publication company that handles many films based on mangas, animes, games, and more. Pretty much for most of Dragon Ball's existence, Shueisha has been involved with distributing Dragon Ball as an IP around the world. And finally, we have Akio Iyoku, who has been the guardian of Dragon Ball, so to speak, for many years at this point. Akira Toriyama personally chose Iyoku to be his personal steward, or guardian I guess you could say, for Dragon Ball if Toriyama were to pass away. Which means that Dragon Ball's creator had put all of his faith and future into the hands of Iyoku, and Iyoku has protected Dragon Ball ever since. So what's the problem, you may be asking? Well, since Toriyama passed away now, Shueisha is trying to go full steam ahead and basically use the Dragon Ball IP to monetize as much content as humanly possible in order to make as much money as they can. Which is obviously what a corporation is meant to do. I get that, making money is important, big shocker. However, Iyoku believes, according to this article that I'll read more of shortly, that Shueisha is bastardizing and ruining the legacy of Toriyama by turning Dragon Ball into a content churning machine. And what they have plans for, according to Iyoku, is not what Toriyama would have wanted for the IP. And if Shueisha and its investors get their way, Dragon Ball as an IP and the legacy of its creator would be mined and desecrated in order to make as much money as possible while diluting the brand. It's disingenuous, of course, since prior to Toriyama dying, Shueisha upheld their side of the bargain. They couldn't technically do anything that they wanted to do without Toriyama's blessing, since obviously he was the creator and had final say. But now that he's gone, it leaves the IP in a very similar situation to many other creatives whose works have in various ways been ruined as well. Although he didn't own it, Stan Lee made the Marvel Universe with Jack Kirby. That cannot be debated. And we saw when Stan died, which was around the time of Avengers Endgame coming out, suddenly the Marvel Universe, from games, movies, comics, and more, which were already in varying levels of quality, they all suddenly took a nosedive. And a splurging of content was made, which was the definition of quantity over quality. Just look at how much content Disney released Marvel related in 2021 alone. I'll put it on screen because it's ridiculous. Like, look how much slop came out. Some of these things say 2020, but they actually came out in 2021 as well, besides a few. Like, it's so much content. The point I'm trying to make here is that there seems to be a suspicious shift in content moderation and what gets made prior to the creator of said IP being alive and then when they die. So what is happening here with Dragon Ball, I want you to look at it sort of how Disney did Marvel once Stan Lee died. But even more egregious and greedy, if that's even possible. I want to read you this entire article because all of it is important. It's story time, fellas, so kick your feet up, let me read you a bedtime story, and I quote. Since its serialization began in 1984, Dragon Ball has remained a highly lucrative IP that continues to captivate people. According to the app research company Sensor Tower, the two Dragon Ball mobile games, including Dragon Ball Z Dokkan Battle, which began distribution in 2015, has surpassed a worldwide total revenue of 5 billion yen or $31.7 million USD by February 2024. The movie Dragon Ball Super Superhero released in 2022 and achieved a global box office revenue of 13 billion yen, or $82.5 million American. In Saudi Arabia, a theme park of comparable size to Tokyo Disneyland is also set to be constructed. In March, the original author Akira Toriyama passed away, much to the regret of many. However, the momentum of Dragon Ball shows no signs of slowing down and continues to accelerate worldwide. Regarding its appeal, those involved unanimously agree it's the simplicity. When we analyzed why the games became hits in North America, it seemed that the straightforwardness of let's fight to see who is the strongest, which can be enjoyed without much thought, resonated with people, said an insider from Bandai Namco Group. Major uproar due to a person in charge going independent. Last year, there was an incident that caused an uproar in the business over this work. In May 2023, Ioku, former head of Shueisha's Dragon Ball Room, went independent with several subordinates and established a new company, Capsule Corporation Tokyo, named after a fictional company that appears in the series, with the aim of managing creative activities and handling intellectual property rights. Mr. Ioku became the head of the Dragon Ball Room in 2016 after serving as editor-in-chief of V-Jump. A Shueisha insider recalls, without consulting his superiors, Mr. Ioku unilaterally decided to make a film adaptation of Toriyama-sensei's Sandland. He always focused on serving the author, for better or worse. At the same time, there was criticism from anime production companies and TV networks that he had a condescending attitude. In addition to these evaluations, progress was lacking in collaborations with the metaverse and AI that the higher-ups were anticipating. As a result, in 2022, he was reassigned to a new business department. This unwelcome transfer became the trigger, and within a year, Ioku went independent. Taking over the role of Toriyama's spokesperson on behalf of Shueisha, Ioku's actions raised the risk of Shueisha losing its Dragon Ball rights. Toriyama-sensei was also dissatisfied with Ioku being removed, as he trusted him the most. Chairman Maru Horichi of Shueisha even went directly to Toriyama's residence in Aichi Prefecture, but he couldn't persuade him to stay. Said the aforementioned Shueisha insider, this put Bandai Namco, which had been making a fortune with games like Dokkan Battle, in a difficult position. Ioku, who was Toriyama-sensei's spokesperson, became independent, but the rights to the manga were managed by Shueisha. It was unclear who to consult regarding matters related to the original work. Meetings about Dragon Ball were organized very vaguely, with all relevant parties being invited, which subtly included both Ioku and Shueisha representatives, making the coordination extremely stressful, said the aforementioned Bandai Namco insider. Toriyama's passing occurred amidst this battle over rights. The discussion continued without the original author, and the disputes have been ongoing and still remained unresolved, noted a Shueisha employee. Some industry executives are looking towards a resolution that involves the family, saying it depends on how the family feels about it. The question remains who will ultimately take the lead in managing this massive IP. The future of the bogged down battle, which is not befitting a shonen manga, remains unclear, end quote. So as you can see, Dragon Ball as an IP is currently in a bloodthirsty battle between a mecha corporation that is hungry to take Dragon Ball and monetize the ever-living bejesus out of it in every conceivable way to make as much money as possible. On the other hand, you have Ioku, who now runs a group called Capsule Corporation Tokyo, who, as the article stated, was founded just within the past year, with Ioku and several individuals who worked beneath him while he was working at Shueisha. And it became very clear very quickly that once Toriyama passed, Shueisha attempted to undermine and sideswipe Ioku by moving him to another department within the company. This was clearly only being done in order to move Ioku away from Dragon Ball so Shueisha could place their own yes men in Ioku's place to steer the ship in their direction. But now that Ioku runs Capsule Corp, it's clear that his mission is to protect and manage Dragon Ball as an IP, no matter the cost to his own reputation or well-being. This Ioku guy is the definition of the realest friend someone could have. The dude has made it his life's goal to protect his friend Akira Toriyama's work from greedy executives. But it's also shady that Shueisha, knowing that Toriyama placed the handling of rights and distributions with that of Ioku, are now trying to sideswipe him yet again by going directly to Toriyama's family. Because like I said originally, since Toriyama has passed away, the rights in a way fall within his estate in a way too. It's sort of like with Lord of the Rings and how technically, even though Amazon owns the right to make stuff like Rings of Power, Tolkien's estate needs to sign off on things in order to allow them to happen. And of course, as we all know, when it comes to money, greed is very quickly to follow behind it. So when people looked at Rings of Power and went, well, why would Tolkien's estate allow such slop to exist? The answer is simple. It's money. It's always money. Wave enough cash in front of the right people and things can just move forward. So take what I just said about Tolkien, but now it's Toriyama, and Shueisha is essentially trying to undermine Capsule Corp and turn Toriyama's family to their side. So they can basically make whatever they want using the IP and then rake in the millions and billions in profits. I know it's a lot, but basically Shueisha owns the rights when it comes to creating certain things. They are directly connected and responsible when a movie or show is being made, for example. Obviously, because they have the means and manpower to make such things happen on such scales. However, Bandai Namco, the game company which also distributed games like Dark Souls and Elden Ring, they have exclusive rights to Dragon Ball in another way. Bandai Namco has the rights when it comes to toys and video games, which they obviously work with Shueisha, but again, they have more power in that regard. So you have this IP, and its complete and total ownership is not currently controlled by any one party fully. Think of Dragon Ball like the literal Dragon Balls themselves right now. Capsule Corp has a Dragon Ball, Shueisha has a few, so does Bandai and Toriyama's residents. And they are all fighting this nasty battle behind the scenes to see who in the end gets all 7 so they can finally make their wish a reality, and it's not looking good, fellas. If Toriyama were alive, obviously none of this would be going on. It's like the House of the Dragon basically. Toriyama was Viserys, and now that he's gone, his children are fighting over the Iron Throne. I don't know how many metaphors and examples I'm going to use in this video to explain this, but it is like the House of the Dragon balls, I guess, but you get what I mean. It has been confirmed by interviews and fans that Ioku has been instrumental in keeping Dragon Ball along the path of righteousness. For example, if you liked Dragon Ball Super introducing Broly, thank Ioku for that. He was the one that pushed to make Broly official canon within the universe going forward. He was also instrumental in making Gohan a lead character and superhero and making him achieve beast form. Basically, Ioku is like the superfan who knows what the fans really want and is working to make those things happen. And Shueisha is your old man executive who doesn't really care, just wants to sell things with the IP to make money. Quality be damned, of course, they figure name alone will sell just fine. There was also this other article from Mary Station that I was reading too as I was making this video, and it sheds even more light onto what exactly is owned by who in this legal battle going forward. So this was confirmed by Bunshun, another Japanese site. Here's what it said. It is said that the copyright of the Dragon Ball manga will remain with Shueisha and that the games and video related work will be transferred to Capsule. It seems that negotiations are still going on as to how far we will be involved with each other, a Shueisha employee told Bunshun. So now we know definitively, and it seems that Capsule Company and Ioku have way more power over this IP than I originally thought. And it seems that Toriyama trusts Ioku so much that he essentially made him the new owner of Dragon Ball in a sense in the wake of his demise. So this means a few things. One is that this battle goes on forever and it doesn't get resolved for a really long time. And that we could end up with splintered continuities and projects being made from both Shueisha and Capsule Corp in the future. Which would be really annoying and confusing because then you would bring fans to these fights where they would argue, well, what's canon then? Is the ongoing manga series canon under Shueisha, or is the Capsule Corp games and such the new canon going forward? Yeah, I'm sure that won't confuse anybody, right? This also explains why when so many have asked why it's taking so long to make a sequel to Super, voila, now you know why. They have been fighting for years, although respectfully at least, but now that Toriyama is gone, these two groups have effectively turned into a bloody fistfight over ideals and the future of the series. Who will end up winning though, I can't say for now, but I'm glad I got this story out there so more people can know about it. Who should run Dragon Ball in the future? Should it be the biggest publishing company in Japan who fans have criticized for diluting the brand and going for quantity over quality? Or should it be the former head of the Dragon Ball room who now aims to control the IP in the form of Yoku and Capsule Corp? Who do you think the Akira Toriyama estate will side with? Are we cooked, fellas? I guess time will tell. Now let's get into this other story which is also set in Japan, which is Assassin's Creed Shadows. This game doesn't look good and apparently now people are getting exposed for lying. From that Park Place, Japanese political aid indicates Assassin's Creed Shadows debacle could escalate into diplomatic incident. This news comes originally from Grums, who said via Twitter, the Assassin's Creed Shadow issues with Yasuke and the discredited historian Thomas Lockley have exploded into a potential diplomatic incident. Letters are being sent with questions to the Japan Ministry of Education, Culture, Sports, Science and Technology, Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Ministry of Economy, Trade and Industry. While the government have not taken action yet, they are waiting for final release of the game to decide. And there is mounting pressure in Japan to address the issue with Ubisoft portraying false information to Japanese children. Weirdly enough, this political aid in the video is not named in any of these articles, so I went looking. Apparently this political aid's name is Yuhei Shigekuroki. I could be wrong of course, but I basically translated his YouTube channel's name into English and that's what I got. So I will be calling this guy Yuhei for the rest of the video. He said in that video as translated, and I quote, "It has been pointed out that Mr. Thomas Lockley, Associate Professor, Foreign Languages, Faculty of Law, Nihon University, wrote a book about Yasuke's story, which he created from his own imagination and spread the contents of the book as historical fact all over the world, and that this is a movement to make a fabricated history the truth of the world without many Japanese people even knowing about it. Assassin's Creed Shadows, a new game being developed by the French game company Ubisoft, is set in the Sengoku period of Japan and Yasuke appears as the main character. This game company has been taken over by people of the political correctness movement, and from the pre-release interview footage, the disrespect for Japan is blatant. The content of the game that has been partially released has also been distorted and grossly disrespectful of Japanese culture, history, and Japanese people. For example, in an interview, a person in charge of the grotesque decapitation scene said, "Death was a common occurrence in Japan at the time and most people died by having their heads neatly cut off. I would like to know the government's views on this matter and its future policy. If it were a game made by a private company, there would be no need to be so concerned, but it has been announced that it was based on Japanese historical facts. And if this goes viral, people all over the world will start to believe it, which I think is extremely malicious. In fact, the following message has been released. The Brazilian embassy in Japan publicly announced on Facebook that Yasuke was Japan's first black samurai and that Yasuke was brought to Japan in 1579 and became a hero. In general terms, if there is any suspicion that the content is contrary to deduction reading, careful measures must be taken. That this game is currently undergoing ethical review, so it has not been officially released, so will not be published as a separate game. It is not possible for the Ministry of Foreign Affairs to respond because it is a game-related matter and has nothing to do with diplomacy. But after receiving the response from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, there was a phone call. The Ministry of Foreign Affairs has responded that it is just a game that has nothing to do with diplomacy, but the matter has been quite large and there is a possibility that it could escalate into a diplomatic issue. I have said that there is a possibility, but at this current stage, it is just a game and I cannot give an answer. Regarding the request to the National Diet Library, it would be helpful if you could check the information in the primary source about Yasuke and Thomas Lockley's book, and then summarize the information that is clearly wrong after checking these two," end quote. By the way, that Thomas Lockley guy is the dude who wrote the original book on Yasuke, and it turns out that he's been ousted to have been lying the entire time, and he basically made up the entire story to begin with for money, of course. As posted here by Manga Lawyer on Twitter, Thomas Lockley has had his position and program completely scrubbed from Nihon University where he works, and he has since gone into hiding, for lack of a better term, when it comes to actually being questioned on his historical evidence when it comes to Yasuke. And due to this monumental screw-up, Wikipedia has locked the page for Yasuke so nobody can edit it any further, and now Ubisoft has a whole game coming out about a dude that they claim existed but didn't, but they're not the only ones running damage control. Over at The Gamer, you have stupid articles like this one titled, "Assassin's Creed Shadows was always going to be queer." This article came up in defense when Ubisoft confirmed that there will be multiple romance options of all kinds for both Yasuke and Naoe in Shadows. This of course made a lot of people mad, and for good reason. It's a really messed up situation, however, no matter how they put it. Giving a fake character romance options is fine, I guess, because the character isn't real, yet Ubisoft and others claim that Yasuke was a real samurai in Japan. So based on their logic, this guy actually existed, therefore making Yasuke capable of being gay when he was most likely not that at all, considering his surroundings in life as far as we know. Which means that these woke freaks have pushed their own principles and politics onto a guy who apparently existed. It would be like making a movie about Mike Tyson, but they decide to give him a boyfriend in the movie when he didn't have that in real life for woke brownie points, see what I mean? Now if Yasuke never existed, then technically giving him multiple romances is fine, I guess, since he never existed. But then, that would lead Ubisoft and their apologists like thegamer.com here having to admit that their visionary black samurai was in fact a fabrication that never actually existed to begin with, and was instead made by a woke white guy in order to coax people into buying his book so that he could make money off of it. So basically, no matter which way we go, Ubisoft ends up losing, and now that the government is officially involved to review this game, which I doubt it'll be cancelled, it's too far along anyways, but it could dramatically affect its reputation and sales regardless. This game is a woke disaster, and there's so many contradicting opinions and mistakes found already that if I were Ubisoft, I would delay this game and fix everything. Instead, they're going to release what will objectively be a less than stellar game that'll be marred with problems and complaints right out of the gate. The Gamer tries to spin the story saying that Ubisoft has had gay characters before in the AC series, which is true, but this time with Yasuke, they are clearly pushing their own politics onto a character in order to virtue signal. I think all of this is stupid, retconning, changing things to fit agendas, all of it. Then you have Jim Shooter, who was one of the former editors-in-chief over at Marvel Comics, who was asked about the state of entertainment today, and here's what he said.
So how do you feel about the state of the comic book industry today?
I think they forgot what business they're in. I think that, hey guys, it's supposed to be entertainment, but a lot of it comes out like propaganda. And I don't care if you agree with every word they say. Nobody wants to read propaganda. It's just, it's boring. And an awful lot of retcon going on. And I mean, like I said, I respect the intent of the creators. And Jack Kirby never intended for Thor to be a girl. And he never intended. Joe Simon, Jack Kirby, and Stan Lee are spinning in their graves because they turned Captain America into like a Hydra guy or a Nazi or something, and he always was. Well, that's just wrong. I mean, don't do that.
Stay true to the character.
Yeah,
stay true to the character.
And he's right. What's happening with Yasuke here is evidence enough that this kind of nonsense needs to stop, and the same goes for Dragon Ball 2. They are attempting to drag the good name of Akira Toriyama and his life's work to make a quick buck, and it's disgusting. None of this is okay. We need to keep all of these people accountable, because if we don't, these things will just keep happening over and over until we're all dead and it happens again. If you ask me, Dragon Ball cannot be destroyed. I hope more people see this so that the word spreads of what Shueisha is doing behind the scenes following Toriyama's death. As for Yasuke, screw this game, dude. I'm so sick and tired of Ubisoft ruining things in woke identity politics. Plus, why have two protagonists again? The only other time they did this was Syndicate, which was one of the worst performing games in the series. Who over there thought it was a good idea to do that again? Just give me a Eivor-like character who I could make male or female and just make a good game. This slop needs to stop. Remember, vote with your wallets, friends. As always, thank you for watching. Subscribe, share, like the video, and thanks to my patrons and members as well. It's $3 for a membership to get exclusive emojis and a badge next to your name if you want it, and it also supports the channel, so I thank you. Have a wonderful day, keep your middle fingers high, and I'll see you in the next one.